shoulder and Canada was eliminated. It was a goal I wouldn't be happy my goalie's letting in.
Yeah.
So, and he lets the last game, the first time he hasn't let one in right through him.
Yeah.
But I think Canada has the two superstars on forward. You know, McKinnon and McDavid.
Yeah.
And the U.S., you know, U.S. is really, both teams have got terrific players. And I don't know if U.S. gets to have that, what's his name, plays for Vancouver, won the Defenseman of the Year, Norris, last year.
Hughes.
Quinn Hughes there.
Are they going to let him play or not? I don't know why the guy wouldn't be allowed to play, but he has rules, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Last I heard was Tage Thompson from the Buffalo Sabres was joining the team, which, you know, big Tage, I recruited him back in the day when he was looking at prep schools, but really turned out to be quite a big, strong man, goal scorer, but he's not a defenseman. So I thought the whole idea was because Charlie McAvoy was out, they were looking for a defenseman. So I'm a little puzzled as to why they're doing that. But the other thing too that's interesting with this, right? The All-Star game used to be a period of time where you had a couple of weeks off, and a lot of players use that time to kind of heal up, right? So I wonder what the final assessment of all this is, as exciting as it is and really, really fun to watch. There's a lot of guys from every one of these nations that are getting pretty beat up, that are actually getting injured and out of this tournament due to injury. So if you're the head coach or a GM, what are you thinking as far as that goes, right? It's certainly not a meaningless game. It's not, but you get paid to coach NHL games and win Stanley Cups. You get players injured and it delays their ability to play. Well, how does that affect the mindset, or is everybody just fine with it?
Well, they are playing hard and guys are getting hurt, but they haven't done anything like this for 11 years, and it's just become a really isolated game. This helps it be more of a world game, so, just guys can get hurt playing any games.
But I agree 100%. But do you want their risk? Hey, Hal, do you want their risk here? If
Morning, Hal.
You know what I'm saying? I just wonder about that mindset. I mean, I think it's great that they're playing. I love it, but I'm just wondering, if I'm a GM and Connor McDavid, God forbid, or if Tkachuk gets hurt with a season-ending injury, or even out for a month, that really, this time of year, that really hurts your chances.
Oh, I agree with you, but it's kind of a continuous risk, and I agree with it. People be upset, but such is life.
Yeah, so it's good. I wonder if they'll try to add other nations as this moves forward.
Well, there's one called Russia. That's one of the best ones, but if they stopped invading other nations, they could probably come.
Czech Republic too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they won the World Championship last year.
Yeah, but I think I don't know how that would work, because that would give an odd number if Czech.
Well, that used to be the Canada Cup.
Yeah.
Canada Cup was, I don't know, about 6, and that would add 2 more, which would be 6. Canada Cup was pretty exciting.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Well, Hal, when I started the conversation, I mentioned I might have to leave early. I'm doing some work buying a condo, and I wanted to my question was, and we got a little off topic, Canada, US, pros and cons of each team, and trying to be as objective as possible, not emotionally involved. What are the pros and cons in terms of strengths, weaknesses, existing situation relative to available players and injuries. And pros and cons, Tom mentioned goalies. It's that there's no comparison with the American goalie, Hellerbuck, and Biddington. He brought up watching the World Championships and mentioning a weak goal let in. I thought Biddington had a really good last game, and we're sort of caught up talking about players too, and I think we can do that for a bit. I'm more concerned in watching how they play, the ups and downs of how they play in terms of where they're at right now. But Hal, what do you think? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the U.S. and Canada?
Well, I was pretty impressed with the U.S. team, how they actually played team defense and just got tighter and tighter when they had the lead in the last game. Is the series good or bad? I think it's good for hockey. Because, here we don't see the World Championships really. I know that it's probably more accessible to you guys in Canada.
Thank you.
Bless you. And another one coming, huh?
Probably.
But right now, I mean, we're in the middle of, the high schools in Minnesota, at least, are all, barreling right through their playoffs right now. The youth teams are in playoffs. It's a pretty hockey intensive world right now. And some of the first early games, they weren't on ESPN or one of the networks. They were on Max, HBO Max. The first games were. A lot of people don't have that. And so, I don't know. I thought it was good. I'm going to watch tonight. We'll see what happens. It's a pretty. What I like about it is that they're playing hard all the time. Whereas, when I watch the Wild play, they don't seem like they're playing hard. Maybe they are. I don't know, but not at this level. You got all this talent on the ice, and look how fast that is, Mr. Malloy.
Well, the players are just saying that they've never played games at this speed before.
Yeah. And they'll have to slow down and go back to their other teams.
I wonder what the team salaries
Fantastic
are.
hockey.
Yeah.
Hal, I wonder what the team salaries are. What's the salaries of each of these teams?
Well, let's ask Siri.
Bankrupt an organization.
See.
I don't even know
Player
if they get paid for
salaries.
this.
Or what do we call this thing? Of 4 nations. Who came up with this thing? I think didn't the Players Association come up with this deal?
They might have, because none of these guys have got to play anything like this. They grew up in Canada watching all this international hockey, and they, this is the first time that McDavid has ever been anything like this, or,
Let's see here. Here's says not so much. Let me see. See if I can. Players receive a registration bonus for their participation in 4 nations. The winning team receives an additional bonus shared among the players. They aren't putting any dollar amounts on it, though. There's an undisclosed prize pool would be shared among the winners. This is from a guy named Bill Daly. Is he from the? He's from the National Hockey
kind
League.
of the second in command in the NHL.
I'm going to put you on mute. I got to talk to my son here for a minute.
Well, you guys were obviously getting into the business of hockey. I'll make one statement. There's no doubt about it. It's the best hockey we've watched. And to do it at this time of the year, to your to what you said, Peter, it's ramped up the game, and injuries, they're going to be costly to some of the teams. Whether this kind of a thing will continue, we'll probably won't know till after it's all done. The owners, I'm sure, will be happy about it, but the bottom line to all of it is dollars. It is the business of hockey. And I'm looking at it, I'm not at all emotionally as fixated on the outcome. I just look at the quality of hockey. And when you see the best teams playing the hockey they're playing against one another, boy, they really are making each other better. And if we're comparing Canada and the US, and I talk about that first game, Peter, and I don't know if you watched it or not, but it was embarrassing. The US dominated in team play, 200-foot hockey. They outplayed us, I thought, in every aspect of the game, and we weren't accustomed to executing team play at that pace. I'm not sure. I was surprised, but actually I wasn't, because I think the U.S. is probably a little better at bringing teams to short-term competition because of their programs with the equivalent in the States of the Program of Excellence and the centralized camps they have, I believe. But I think the outcome, we have a chance, and a good chance, because of the American injuries that I've heard. So the roster isn't going to be the same. But the way they played against Sweden, I think they had 9 forwards. They played outstanding, and it frightened me. Even though Sweden won, they were outstanding. I'm pretty impressed with the way they play. So anybody else looking at it from a technical, tactical point of view? Like, I've typed out the comment and shared it with everybody. The U.S. in the game against Canada, the first one, they were ahead of us in terms of speed of foot, speed of hand, and speed of mind. They just executed quicker. So, and I don't like talking about this player, that player. It's going to be what it's going to be. But any other thoughts from you guys on this?
Well, I think if the U.S. can play that same commitment to team defense, because I think that's the difference I see with the speed that Canada has and the skill that they have with guys like McDavid, Crosby, etc. That's their advantage. I think for sure, the explosiveness that they have, players how well they can produce offensively. So with those injuries and that, like you said, is the U.S. still going to be able to play the same type of team defense? I think in the net, yes, for sure, because he's just such a good goaltender. But will they be able to play in front of them as defensively responsible? Is kind of what I'm curious to watch.
Tom, I'm not trying to relate. It's hard to talk about elite minor hockey like what you're coaching, Tom, and not draw comparisons, but I'm looking at the challenges, watching one and trying to emulate one and call yourself elite. At that level, in the NHL, Canadian players that grow up and develop in major junior hockey are stars who get extra ice time, too long a shift, and they make great money in the end. I don't believe they really adapt to what I call team play. And so it's sort of like, yeah, we've got these superstars and they're playing better together as a team than they did before. And I thought the reason they played better in the end and beat Finland, because Finland almost pulled a rabbit out of the hat. But if you look at the minutes, and you guys saw the pictures I took and shared, the minutes of the fourth and third lines were very close to the first and second. And McDavid and McKinnon's times were down by 2 or 3 minutes for the game. That meant the whole team played.
Well, they don't really have a third and fourth line. Every
Nope.
guy out there is the best player in their team.
I know, Tom, but when they played the US, the third line got 9 minutes. 11, and the third line got 9. And the other lines were, distinguishably more ice time. But my point is, they relied on the best players and the star players to win versus everybody contributing and playing as a team, which the Americans are. So we've labeled them first, second, third, fourth. And I think if they think of themselves that way, they approach the game that way and play that way. And I think the NHL, isn't a recipe for the Stanley Cup. It might be a recipe for winning the league. But short-term competition, everybody, I think, can accept playing their roles and buying into a different coaching philosophy. But, the bottom line is if you're coaching to win, and it isn't just the best players are going to win, it's going to be the best teams. So I just wish the Americans were healthy, but I feel it's going to have a lot to do with the team play of both teams, and particularly if every team gets what it gets out of all of its players, not just its best players.
Yeah, well, it's kind of obvious because you can't play guys the whole game. They have such good players. Everybody can come up with good games.
Yeah.
They're what skews the minutes is the power play time and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Any other thoughts on strengths and weaknesses? Are the Americans overall faster?
I don't think so. I think overall, Canada has more high-end forwards. U.S. has better goaltending. Now that Makar is there, well, that might give Canada a little advantage on D because McAvoy is hurt, and if Hughes can't play, if Hughes can play, I think it's a soft on D.
Yeah.
I was watching Makar's skating coach last night, working with a kid. And anyways, that's how I think it's really even. Both teams got really good players.
Have you ever got to talk to Makar's coach?
I've talked to him, but not about that. I see him all the time. I don't really talk to him very much.
Well, I mentioned to you I wanted to get him on the Sharks. And is he down there when you practice at 4 on Thursdays?
I don't know. I don't know what his hours are. Yesterday it was about 2:30 or something. And he was on the ice with a kid. But he runs the skate shop there. Makar sends his skates there to get his blades there to get him to sharpen them.
Huh.
So.
Well, I'm going to
Makar, Dumba, Ryan Duncan, all are from Crowchild there.
Yeah. Tom, did any of your players or parents go up to Edmonton to watch the
My whole team went.
PWHL game?
My whole team went to Edmonton. All 20 were there.
Boy, I saw Cassie between periods. I'm watching the game last night. I didn't watch it live, and I didn't go to it because I had U13 games to watch. Cassie did a heck of an interview, and have you watch any of the hockey at all, Tom?
No, I didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
I didn't go. I was like about 7 days in a row. I have to take my wife out sometime.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all our practices, games have been in the evening for some reason.
Yeah.
So I just decided to stay home. And we had a family dinner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just saw the pictures and I counted all 20 players were there. A whole bunch of parents. They had a liquor license on the bus.
Huh.
So they partied the whole time. They loved to party, the parents.
Yeah.
And it sounded like it was a great time, and Mila and Emily went.
Yeah.
So, and they got to go in the dressing room and meet the players and stuff like that.
Well, I know Kyle went with his family. A lot of other players, parents, and a few coaches went. And Cassie brought them into the dressing room with the team too.
Yeah.
And they got to meet, everybody. So it was a real neat experience for the girls from Girls Hockey Calgary. So
yeah, I would have liked to go, but if it was in Calgary, but I didn't have the energy to spend.
Yeah.
They were gone 14 hours. The bus arrived at Max Bell at 10 at night, and they left it. It was like a 14-hour deal.
Yeah.
I just would have been nice to go to, but I didn't go.
Did they stay overnight?
No, they bussed up.
Okay.
They met at Max Bell, left at 9 in the morning. They got back at 10 at night. Of course, then you got to get home after that.
Yeah.
So it was an all-day event, and everybody had fun. They all went up to a game in Edmonton, Peter. There's a professional women's hockey league game.
Yeah, I think I saw it. You had pictures.
Yeah.
Excuse me, pictures.
Well, Cassie organized it all.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, so it was really nice for the girls.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that, I think that you know better than me, but I think the difference is too, right? The girls are probably really excited about it. Whereas like if it was guys that age, they'd be excited, but they'd still worry about being cool. Whereas the girls can just enjoy it.
Yeah. I had one of the parents that went said that the age of the girls was about 11 to 14. And the 11 and 12-year-olds, the U13s, were absolutely the emotionally engaged in the game. So that's a pretty unique age, I think, Tom, where they're not distracted by their egos in the game yet. And they just love the game. And boy, big, strong, fast, skilled girls. Still not, as fast and quick as the NHL, but boy, they're doing things. Everything the NHL does, they're doing there. Just not as quick spontaneously, but it just impressed me. And Carla McLeod's team lost, but I was more impressed, Tom, with the way they played because, man, they moved the puck. They possessed the puck. They made short little passes. And the Toronto team played a typical Canadian style game, north-south, winning battles, front of the net, corners, and the walls were theirs. Just a great game. And boy, I'm sure glad for the league. The I had no idea that the tickets weren't that expensive. I heard that you could get a bowl seat for $20. And had I known that and had a ride up, I might have gone and missed the U13 games. But it's sure good for the girls hockey. So, Tom,
Well,
go ahead.
Those games are broadcast, like, because that's one thing here. Hard to really get those on television to watch. Maybe they're on like a YouTube here or Flow Sports or something like that. But where do you watch those games up there if you're watching them on TV?
I think TSN's brought one of the sports channels is broadcasting. This is the first time. I think last year they did too, because they never did before.
I don't know if you can watch TSN down there, can you, Peter?
It's spotty when they decide to send it our way, if that makes any sense. You know, cable companies down here everything is, yeah, we offer 300 stations, but you got to buy 298 of them.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard, right? They offer them, but you got to buy the apps, and you could literally be spending hundreds of dollars, like more than a car payment if you wanted to, a month on apps just to watch everything you want to watch.
Yeah. Have you purchased any special apps to watch games?
Well, we have the NHL Network, which is something that we had to add on. Hulu's another one that allows us to get the ESPN Plus, which it really does. They do a really good job on ESPN Plus of all the NCAA men's and women's games are broadcast on there, Division I. So we get to see that. Like I said, there's a separate service called Flow Sports where you can watch East Coast League. You can watch.
Yeah, we got that. Our games are on there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something. It's not great. I mean, it's still, you're paying for a service and then it starts to buffer or gets kicked off and you got to get back on. So it's okay. But one thing the university does with all the home games, they also put them on YouTube. And that's pretty good. The YouTube TV, there's not often an issue with that. So home games are easier to watch.
Well, I've got another topic, Tom. It relates more to, I think, a never-ending story in elite minor hockey, but particularly girls hockey Calgary. Tom, we have 2 midget AAA teams. You've coached one of them before. And all of our teams right up to the U18 double level are in the top 4 of the provincial league. And we're playing with that philosophy that I advocate, which is using everybody so they can develop, and we're getting results. So that's what I feel most strongly about, even at the NHL level. If they ever learned how to make everybody feel valued and motivated and use them, they're going to get results. And I think that's what happens with teams in the NHL. But the dilemma here at U15, Tom, is we're not going to be able to keep the best players. And I don't know if you've heard the rumor, but there's some lobbying going on with parents to take 4 players or more out of the Girls Hockey Calgary League and go to a private school. And that means if you're coaching the team or Jordan or Kyle, there are players on your team that aren't going to come back next year. They're not being upfront with you, and we're losing our best players annually because of that.
In midget, in U18.
U18 AAA, yes.
Yeah. that's happened forever.
Well, this year, I've heard that Brewer and Murphy are part of the group leaving Kyle. And I've heard other names of Jordan's players, top players, leaving the program. And
Well,
I
you know,
don't
Wally,
do anything
if you're
about
a
it. I
parent,
don't know if we should worry about it.
if you're a parent, and if you got enough money and $30,000 or $35,000 isn't a big deal to you, and a lot of these parents it isn't.
Yeah.
Your kid can go and be on the ice every day and have skills twice a week
Yeah.
in the morning and have weight training and everything right there. They don't have to leave. They practice during school. And you know, if your kid really wants to make college or something, that's a better option.
Yeah.
If you've got the money.
Yeah.
Because my son went to the Edge.
Yeah.
And you know, and it wasn't even, they didn't have the buildings there. They were practicing on Springbank at that time and stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you get, it's more like a sports club in Europe, because you're right there and you get more practice, you get the fitness, and then you play these tournaments, and lots of scouts come and watch the high school tournaments.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, it's probably a pretty darn good option.
one of the cons is I've heard is their travel to play their games is it's more quite a bit more than what we face in our league.
They fly because they have to, you know, they might go down to Minnesota, or they might go where Peter lives.
Yeah.
Play there.
Well,
Wasn't Jordan's team just in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, when I coached there, we didn't fly. We took the bus to play in Canada. That's for sure.
Yeah, but they play all over.
Yeah.
They'll go down and play Dom's team, stuff like that.
Yeah. So you're saying, what you're saying, Tom, is we can't compete with them.
Not if the people got the money.
Well, they do have the money, so they're going to do it.
Well, you know, I mean, we can't even get ice time like that.
Yeah.
You know, like you can, like I coached the AAA for a whole bunch of years, and a lot of my players went and played in Canada University and the American University. But, you know, some of them did go to sports school their last year. You know, they went to Okanagan or places like that their last year.
Yeah.
So they get more exposure.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. Another advantage that they have that's hard to counter is just what you said, Tom, about they come down the States. So if you're anywhere from Division I to even Division III, especially because their travel budget's much smaller, they don't have to try to figure out, can I take a trip, try and afford a trip up to Canada? I'm here. They're coming to us, essentially. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's really difficult to counteract unless your organization was able to get the team you're talking about to also come down this way to play. But that's a financial burden on the parents. And once you're able to afford the school like that, you know, typically that's travel's part of it. You might have to pay some portion, but you wouldn't have to float the whole boat.
Yeah. And I know myself recruiting, I go to the playoffs and watch the playoffs, you know, with the midget AAA. But if you can go to a tournament, you know, like big tournaments in Wilcox, Saskatchewan at Notre Dame, I don't know how many teams are there, but I think there was 40 coaches there. They play in a few different places. So that's the opportunity for the kids that stay in the U18 AAA.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Tournament.
Same thing with juniors. Back when I was recruiting, the OJHL used to do a tournament in Buffalo, New York. So I mean that's 6 hours. That's pretty easy to get to. Just drive it. You're not flying, and they're all coming to you. You know, you're not worried about customs or anything like that. You just drive up and. But that one was packed, But it was an opportunity to see all those teams play. They came down for that reason because they knew, especially like I say, Division III schools don't have the budgets to be flying everywhere. So if they can drive somewhere and watch that kind of quality of play, you're much more excited about doing that.
Yeah, and that's what the Girls Hockey Calgary has to figure out, is how can they make it easy for, for the recruiters. Because, they're not going to go watch regular season games because their teams are playing.
Yeah. I
They're
mean,
just winding down now, right? So
yeah,
they'll come
the whole trick
playoffs.
is finding a way for you guys to come just over the border. That's really what it comes down to.
Guys, I don't think, like, if you're good enough, you're going to get seen, you're going to get recruited, regardless of where you play. You're going to get a scholarship. If you stay and play in Girls Hockey Calgary, if those best players didn't leave, Tom, they'll still get the same scholarship they're going to get leaving. Because I'm convinced the philosophy that we're coaching with, the quality and experience of the people running a program are doing things that other schools don't do.
They're getting on the ice 3 times less a week too, Wally.
Well, I understand that, Tom, but I'm looking at the quality of their play. And if those best players stay here and play in that league, they could beat the Edge hockey team, despite all that ice. In fact, some of the players at the Edge in our U13 program are going to the Edge and they're too tired because they're playing here in GHC and at the Edge school. So Kyle brought that up with me yesterday. Tom, I work for Girls Hockey Calgary. You coach for them. I want everybody to stay here because I believe 3 ice times a week and 2 games a week is enough when you're doing dry land and classroom sessions that they're doing.
Yeah, we got 2 ice times, not 3.
Well, you got 2 at U15. I've talked to Craig yesterday about combining an ice time to get a third, and it makes absolute sense to me because I can do it, but not many coaches would or could. So you have to be able to adapt to me if you want to compete. I'm just not ready to give up and say, okay, we'll look after the players. The best players can go where they want. Our AAA program doesn't matter. We'll focus on our AA programs. They're 1 and 2 in the league already. So, but our other team.
Nobody's saying that they don't matter, Wally. Just saying that if you can afford it, they're going to go there. We're no way we're going to stop it. It used to be that Girls Hockey Calgary would not guarantee that the kids would make fire, the stars out of Bantam. So they went and they jumped and they went and played for Okotoks because they guaranteed they'd be on the team. That was a problem before. That now it's all changed and now they're recruiting and stuff like that. But
yeah, and guys, just listening to what you're saying and what I've observed over the years is, and Tom, you hit on it. The difference is finding a way to get down here because that's what the schools sell is, hey, come play for us. The exposure you get will be so much better. And whether that's true or not, people buy into that. So if you could get your Calgary teams down here to play, and now you say, listen, we have the quality coaching like Wally's talking about, and we go down and play in some of the same tournaments that the high price schools do too. So stay home, be in your bed at night, and you still get the exposure.
Yeah, well, the kids get exposure somewhere because if you do go to that tournament in Wilcox, like I said, there's so many recruiters there.
There used to be I know that at the university, Stony Creek was a place that
Yeah,
Go, that was was that still a big one?
yes, very big.
I took a team there one year. They put together the AAA girls in Calgary. And we went there.
I know that's here in the States, whether you're Division I, Division III, that's typically a big one that coaches try to get to.
Yeah.
You guys solve all the problems while I was gone?
No,
Oh,
we created some more.
We all invested after reading your book, and things are good. We're all buying new cars next week. Wally's buying a condo. It's all set. We're all set.
The market's not too happy today, but
No, I've
whatever.
decided to wait 100 days before I look.
Before you look, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's just too much noise all the time.
Yes.
Every time Trump says something, the market goes up, the market goes down. Then
Yeah.
he says something else, and it's like, oh God, it's just.
How did his crown fit?
How does his crown fit?
Called himself king yesterday and was wearing a crown or something.
I don't know. That guy he's a maniac. We're just all hoping we survive the whole thing, you know. And then, there's a lot of people that think, that he's not going to give up. He's not going to go away after 4 years. He's going to try to figure out a way to just keep on going. And, but he'll be 80 some years old and 4 years from now, 82 or 83 or something like that. I don't know.
Yes.
We'll see what happens. Well, my season ended abruptly on Tuesday night.
All right.
To a team that we had played twice and outscored them 10-2. And we lost the game 4-1, 2 open goals against us. But we went right back to not playing very hard. The older boys just, they just didn't come to play.
That the senioritis that you were talking about?
Yeah, well, they're second year Bantams, but it's that same deal.
Yeah.
We talked about before, and I got exit interviews with most of the players this afternoon, with the exception of the 3 or 4 that were problematic. They didn't sign up for it. So, which is okay. I mean, there's nothing. I coached them all winter and they didn't pay any attention. I don't know why they pay any attention to me in an exit interview.
Yeah, I hear that.
That's really frustrating when, you really have to win to play more.
Yeah.
Basically that's what it comes down to.
Well, we thought early January we had this group of kids going in the right direction. Everybody was kind of in on the program, but as every week went by, it got sillier and sillier, and the music in the locker room and the BS and kids arriving, late, and one of the first year kids arrived for the game the other night and he left his skates at home. And so he missed most of the first period. But, you can tell, I had a championship Bantam team a long time ago, 2002, with Blake Wheeler and that whole crew. And we could hardly keep them in the locker room. They were so excited to go out and play.
Yeah.
And the next year's team, we had to shoo them out of the locker room to get them to go out to play the games. And we had 3 or 4 of these kids that, everybody's on the ice and they're still monkeying around in the locker room. But, every group's different.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they all play for different reasons.
Hal, have they changed? Is the time changed compared to like Blake Wheeler's era? The values of commitment, loyalty, respect for teamwork, has that changed?
Well, it's what's interesting is when Blake played Pee Wees and Bantams for me, and then in the high school elite league, but he left our program and went to a private school. And in conversations with his parents, you know, it first started out with, well, you know, they developed a lot of Division I hockey players, and I go, name two. And they couldn't. And when we got down to it, they were so frustrated by all the other parents who were so critical of Blake and you know the success he was having. The parents just didn't want to hear about it anymore, and so they decided to send him to private school. No, I mean, even out of that crew, one or two of the boys didn't play at the high school. They went off to juniors. They went to the USHL. So, you know, when you talk about loyalty, I mean, I don't, you know, the kids I coach, it's one program, but we have kids going to 3 different schools. And then next year they have to decide if they're going to play at our school when they hit 9th grade. And we got 1 or 2 that I think probably won't.
Yeah.
They'll go shop, they'll go to a different school hoping that it's something better, right? And at a meeting yesterday, I said, no, can't we get all the coaches like in a standard coaching jacket and warm-ups? What do you mean? I said, well, because we're blue, you know, dark blue with the logo. I go, well, you know, one of the coaches on one of these other, he wears red. He wears, his whole outfit looks like Tom's sweatshirt, from his helmet to his jacket to his pants. I go, who is this character, right? I mean, how do you create a team? When I coached that other Bantam team, Tony Lucia was on the team. His father was coach of the Gophers. And Tony come walking in with a Gopher hat on. I said, oh, are you playing for the Gophers now? Well, no. I said, well, get rid of the hat. Put on a Wayzata hat. You know, they go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what? You go in the Army, everybody gets the same haircut and the same pants, the same underwear, the same shirts, the same jackets, because you're on a team. Everybody needs to look like they're on a team, not just a bunch of, you know, guys that we pulled off the street. And
I love you're talking about that, because that's a pet peeve of mine too, with that organization I'm working with.
Huh.
It doesn't cost that much to go out and buy these guys and gals that volunteer their time a hoodie and a pair of joggers that is like everybody else's, right? It really doesn't, and it sets a certain amount of professionalism.
I agree. And we have a website where they can do that, but we don't tell them that they have to do it. And we actually will pay for up to $125.
Yeah. You know, same thing. The organization will buy those. And so I'm trying to get that going. And I had one guy this fall when I went to a practice. He's out there in shorts.
So our organization is pretty good at that. They supply that stuff.
The what?
They supply that. Our
on your team,
girls hockey Calgary, and most other when I coach with others, they supplied that stuff too.
So we had an incident here in Minnesota about 3 weeks ago now, or 4, and a high school coach got knocked down and fractured his skull because they don't wear helmets, and he's still in the hospital. You know, I mean, I don't know if he's going to get out or not. So, you know, you guys in youth have been wearing helmets up there in Canada for a long time. We did it here about 15 years ago. Actually, I did it. Because we had a youth coach go down and fracture his skull. And then we did some data collection and figured out every 6 days, a coach went down and hit his head and had to go to the hospital. Every 6 days. And about every 5 years, one died in youth hockey. And so Minnesota Hockey, I convinced them to make a mandatory, and USA Hockey, which had been trying to do it for years, but you know, they get so much pushback, they followed suit that summer. And since then, we've only lost one coach in Minnesota because he was outside with his team and didn't and didn't have a helmet on. Caught an edge, went down, and 2 days later he was dead. And so now the issue is the high school league is strongly recommending you wear a helmet. They won't require it. And I go out and I see them, not only do they not wear a helmet, they don't have a cap on. Our local high school, like to your point, Peter, one of the coaches is out there with short sleeves. I mean, it's like, look like a hockey guy. I mean, honest to gosh, it's something else. I imagine helmets are going to come, but it's long overdue.
I think I've never seen a coach on the ice without a helmet except at the professional and national team level.
Right.
Now, I don't know about CIS. Tom, do you recall watching Mount Royal whether the coaching staff had helmets?
No, I'll see them tomorrow when they don't. Because they practice a lot of times just before we play at noon.
Yeah.
And they don't have helmets on.
Well, the USHL pushed back because they're professional coaches. They didn't think, but when those guys come to USA hockey programs to coach, they have to wear helmets.
Yep, same here. Yeah.
Yep. So, anyways, too bad for that coach. He's a goalie coach too. He's a volunteer goalie coach. And we'll see if he ever gets out of the hospital. It's really sad. Dying to coach.
They when they initiated that in Canada, guys, the rink attendants were responsible for kicking them off the ice.
Ooh.
And I don't know that it ever happened. They warned them and they put it on, maybe.
That's happened. Gaston was doing his skating, and one rink said he's got to get a helmet on. One of the parents had to go to his car and get his helmet out of the hockey bag, so he had a helmet.
It's such a difficult position to put somebody in because you've got this Zamboni driver, right, who says, "Hey, you got to get off the ice," and the coach looks at you and says, "No," and then goes and runs a practice. Like, what are you supposed to do?
A couple districts in Minnesota fine the association if any of their coaches don't have their helmet on, and they get reported. And then it's like $250 or something. The other issue is wearing it but not buckling it.
That just flies off.
I saw a guy go down and it flew off, and he banged his head and he rolled around a little bit, and then he crawled on his hands and knees to get his helmet and put it back on. I mean, for $125 or whatever they cost, I mean, it's, and the other pushback that we got was from the female coaches because it wrecks their hairdo.
Okay.
Well, when they made helmets, when I was I was playing midget, that was the first year helmets were required for players.
Oh, yeah.
And the referees in Alberta refused to wear them.
Yeah, right.
So if you didn't wear, the referees didn't wear them. So if you didn't wear them, they didn't call it. So it was kind of a rule that nobody enforced.
Yeah.
And then I think the next year they made it refs to get suspended if they didn't wear the helmet. And then you had to wear a helmet. But I was so used to not playing with a helmet, like it, in junior and then college. When I played in Sioux City, I never wore a helmet in that league.
You didn't wear a helmet?
Crazy because it was one of the dirtiest leagues in the world. But
yeah. Well, refs all, not only wear helmets, so they have visors. And, when you shake hands with them after the game, and if you grab them by the arm or shoulder, they got full padding on underneath. I mean, they got better padding on than the players do. You just can't see it.
Yeah.
They finally
they're really vulnerable. I think now I think it was a lot easier, with a one ref system because you follow the play into the zone.
Yeah.
But now you're there and the play's coming at you.
Yes.
And you got to get out of the way. And I know, like in Salzburg with the pros, if I wasn't going to do something, like if I didn't have something I was going to run, I didn't go on the ice. Just being in the way, they're so damn fast, eh?
Yeah,
Just like a moving pylon out there.
yeah.
But just there's no point in me being on the ice unless I'm actually doing something.
I know I tend to get in the way also. I've been wearing a helmet for practice for 20 years, 25 years. It's just not worth because I went down a couple times and banged my head.
Tom, nothing to do with helmets, just on the ice. Tom, what do your assistant coaches do? Push pucks?
No, they're assistant coaches.
Well, what do they do if they're assistants?
They do whatever I ask them. So I have a thing and I say, okay, Emily, you run this and enforce the rule. And if we're doing something else, they're always busy. I plan the practice and I make sure things are happening because there's things happening in different places. So my assistant coaches are coaching. I'm kind of running the practice. I'll call everybody together, make big points, and I blow the whistle and end it, and we move to the next thing. But my assistant coaches are busy the whole time.
That's what I do.
Well, I'm finding that the assistant coaches I watch push pucks.
I don't allow my assistant coaches to push pucks.
Well, I'll give you an example.
I don't allow them. I say, you don't push pucks. Part of coaching is when one drill ends, you tell the players where the pucks go for the next thing.
Yep.
And it takes them 10 seconds. And then you don't have an assistant coach moving pucks. You're talking.
Yep.
You hear puck bang, bang, bang. And they don't even know what's going on next because they're pushing pucks.
Yep.
I did that for 8 years at University of Calgary. I hated it.
Yep.
I didn't even know what we're doing half the time because
Yep.
I'm busy pushing 100 pucks around.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Wally, they're supposed to be an asset. Your assistant coaches are supposed to be an asset to make, just like any, if you will, just to make it business wise, right? Good employees make you as the boss better, right? And that's the goal with your assistants as well. So you invest in them, give them roles that they need to complete, and everybody is better at that point.
Yep.
Well, you guys, and Tom, you get it. I'm mentoring 3 teams, and 2 of the teams, the assistants largely push pucks, and the head coaches run great practices, and the assistants stand and they might look after a station. And last night, one coach looked after a corner where there was a 1-versus-1 battle, and they rotated. Another coach looked after the other corner where there was another battle. And then after the battle, they had to go to the neutral zone, do a stop and start, and race to a free puck. And somebody looked after the neutral zone stop and start race station. And I watched them at that station, and I asked the coach, I went over and I said, "What's your job here?" And she said, "To make sure they stop." Now, I went over for a reason. She didn't know the purpose of stopping and starting both ways. So I went over and said, "Look, you have one job, to make sure they stop and start facing both ways. Facing you. That's a habit." And every team I watch, when they do a bag skate, conditioning skate after not scoring on a shootout drill, the players stop on their favorite side. So in my, I really reached the point where got to hold the assistant coaches accountable. That's the job of the head coach, to make sure they do that. If you overlook those details, they're not accomplishing the purpose of the drill.
Well, the organization that I'm working with now, because that's an issue, I feel like there's too many coaches that you should just recommend you get a taller stick because it's easier to lean on because you're not doing anything out there. But the application for coaching now, I put in boxes that they have to check because they sign the applications. They have to check that they'll know what the practice is before they get on the ice, that they will be engaged. The head coach will give them specific jobs on the ice, and they'll know exactly what they're supposed to be doing out there. So now there'll be some measure of accountability within the group to at least be able to say, hey, stop leaning on your stick. You remember that on your coach's application that you filled out, you said that you would do X, Y, and Z. I think it's great that you're volunteering, but volunteering doesn't mean you don't get to do anything. If you're not here to make the kids better, then there are other individuals who also want to volunteer, and maybe they're a better option now. So trying to give them set up some concrete path for accountability. That's what we're going to be doing next fall.
If you put a page together with that on it, please share it with me because it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, I'll find the coach's application and send it out to you. You can see what they do.
Yeah. Tom, I'm going to give you an example of, you have a skills route where you do the stop, starts, tight turns, transitions, skating, and then you take different paths to shoot on the far end. And, well, I've got all of our teams have a skating route with a puck. Not like yours, but they go all up 3 lanes, around pylons, practicing all those puck control skills. And I've watched it 2 months ago, and I noticed they all had their heads down and were looking at the puck. So a month ago, I reinforced, you have 3 coaches here, stand so that when they in the open lane, they have to look at you and you pick a number, point your hand up. They have to call a number, get their eyes up, because they're going around these pylons doing all the skating with their head down. Like, those are the kind of things that assistants have to do. Head coaches just run the drill and push them to do it. And they do it really well with that, with the eyes down. They're not learning to look up and see the game. They're not stopping and starting both ways. They're developing a bad habit. There's those fundamental teaching points have to be reinforced. And I think assistants can reinforce those fundamental teaching points, but they're going to have to come from the head coach, who is probably too advanced for the teaching points. They overlook them. They just want to have a bag skate. They don't really care if they stop facing both ways, let alone stop and T-start, which is another one of my beefs. It's not taught, so players stop and cross over, and they overskate in hockey games. So those are pretty well 3 fundamentals that I vent about often. And I witnessed last night, I was talking to the manager, not watching the practice too much, but I saw that and I said, well, I've got to go over and speak to that assistant to make sure that she does her job at that station. And to her credit, when the coach blew the whistle and they brought them all in to reinforce what they wanted, she brought up the point, what she was looking for at her station, and she made sure they looked at her. But it's a little detail, but I don't know, habits are important, and they're going to win hockey games. So,
Well, the Swedes call it split vision. So you have I do a lot of chaos things that have to have your head up or you're going to run into people.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, you have to develop that ability to actually see.
Well,
We got a suspension last week because my player headed to the net with their back to the puck and their player headed to the puck and they hit kind of shin pads. But my player was way bigger than their player. So their player got hurt. So my player suspended for 2 games for kneeing. And there was no knee ever happened. And that's all about split vision and being aware of the ice. You know, it's just you have to see things around you.
Yeah. Tom, you practice with Shayla, eh? Combined special teams practice?
Yeah.
How did that go?
That went great. We took 10 minutes. Well, I sent the plan to everybody. We took turns with a power play, 5-on-4, 5-on-3, 4-on-3. And you know, you don't work on 4-on-3 very much, right? And 6-on-5, which was really good to have because we hadn't touched that for a long time. And then we ended up with a shootout. And it, you know, was really.
I think I shared with you a while ago, but I'm going to do it again. Shayla did something with the eyes up that I thought was brilliant. The jerseys were all mixed up, but she put the players in units with colored tape on their helmets. Yellow on the front, back, and sides, so that they didn't have the same jerseys when they were doing small area games. They had to look at the head up and see the color on the helmet. I thought that was brilliant because right now, Tom, at the U13 level, they're starting to get their heads up, but I think at the last half of the season, going into the playoffs, their passing is quite good right now because we've really focused on the importance of that. Do you have to worry about it at your level? The heads aren't down anymore?
Well, it all depends on the player. It's not a. I don't think the head up is the deal. The purpose of getting the puck, is it to go through everybody, or is it to get the puck out ice as quick as possible? You know, I watched one of my players who was a big star in U13. Watched her going down. Not once did she look left or right.
Nope.
Every time she gets a puck, she tries to go through everybody.
Nope.
And it worked in U13 because he's a big kid, but it's not working here. And you know, her head's up to do her deeks, but to look around and, you know, see other players that's the challenge.
So we're starting I actually have a meeting next week with the people that are going to run our summer skills camp. And so for this age group, which would be Phantoms, 14 and under kids. And I know as a group that we're really weak on good skating but more importantly, you know, passing and catching the dang puck. We got better at it over the season. And I'm convinced some kids don't want to catch the puck, so that's another issue. But then I've been thinking about, and I certainly love some input. I want them to, you know, there's a lot of things that happen in hockey that just happen over and over and over again, right? Zone entries, which is either a 1-on-1 or should be a 2-on-1. How do you know? What are the choices? How do you execute? How do you read that? 2-on-1 out of the corner, 2-on-1 off the half wall, scissors plays, and cycling as ways to kind of help them learn to play together rather than just the guy with the puck. And I know our program in U12 a few years ago, the coach really worked hard on cycling and scissors plays coming up the wall and dropping underneath and kids changing positions. And that guy's daughter has got a D1 commit. Doesn't play for us anymore. She went to another school. So then the issue becomes, right? So if you've got kids with, that are hockey players, they might get there in spite of us. And then you got all the rest of them who want to get there and need our help. And we used to work like on zone entries. I've worked on that for years. Just, don't just skate at the defenseman, but that's what they do. Or they try to go wide, but the defensemen are smart. They didn't figure that gig out. So you got three choices. You can do a big 90 and come across. You can do a reverse. You can do a pull up, and then see what the defenseman does, and then you make your decision on what to do after that. But it doesn't happen in the games often enough. And I would say, well, let's see, if we spent 6 weeks this summer and every kid got 300 reps on those particular skills, or 500 reps on those particular skills, would that be a tool they now have in their toolbox of things to do once we get into games? I don't know the answer to that. But my guess is, yeah, they would have more confidence in doing an escape and coming around, because that requires outside edge of the underneath foot. A lot of them aren't very good on their outside edges, and they won't. I mean, when I watch the Four Nations games, that's what they do. You watch the NHL; those guys come across the blue line and they just start slowing down and backing up. They don't stop. They reverse direction and look for a place to put the puck. And is that too much to ask for a 14 or 15-year-old?
I don't know. Tom, what do you think?
Well, it is the deal as you teach stuff, and some catch, some don't, but kind of if they can recognize where the opportunity is, right? If the whole team is ahead of you, defenders, you're not going to beat them with speed to the net, right?
Right.
They're already waiting for you.
Yeah.
So now you have to create 2-on-1s on people and create some confusion and stuff. You think of Gretzky and Curry always creating a 2-on-1 on the widest guy.
Yeah.
And and if you're racing them down the ice, then it's all about speed, moving the puck. That middle drive is a great thing then. And so to get the players to recognize, is this a time that I do pull-ups, or, do the tight turn and delay, or do I cut to the middle? That's kind of it's difficult to teach, but, just like everything, you keep on trying to do it, and hopefully some catch on.
Yeah.
Tom,
Some of them do.
Hal, I think too, what I found success with trying to teach that, even up at the college level, was putting in certain rules for the forwards where you're doing some rush drills like that, where it's robotic, but you have to learn to do certain things. And sometimes that's the only way to teach them. You can Gretzky up the wall, or you can pull up, put on the brakes. That's what you could do. Now, how we used to do that was I'd have one coach just go talk to the defenseman about gaps and things like that. In the meantime, I would put that parameter in with the forwards. So at least initially, the defenders didn't know that those were the only two options that they had. So the forwards had, so they couldn't cheat on it. And then later on,
They figured it out.
they catch on and they cheat, then we go, here's the third option we can go to, chip around, and then you can bring support guys in. But you have to almost, unfortunately, I found even at the NCAA level, you have to move these guys around sometimes like chess pieces
Yeah.
in order to get it to work. But once they see it works, then we begin implementing the game, and then you know, we'd go ad nauseum and try to find every clip I could in a game of them doing it where it was successful, and drill it into their heads that way, because they, you know, visually they learn much easier very often than verbally.
No, I agree. I mean, you have to teach us, you have to teach fundamental things like that, and then they can create off of it once they master that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I was coaching girls actually were easier to teach this stuff to, because they're more interested in it.
Oh, 100%.
And I asked them, I go, what are you thinking about when you go at a defenseman? I go, well, I'm trying to figure out how to beat her. Well, why don't you just move to a different space and let her figure out how to catch you? Oh, okay. So then they would do that, you know, the big 90 or the Gretzky move or whatever, you know, to the middle. And I said, see how much confusion that creates? And oh, by the way, you're in a much better position to shoot the puck. And they get it. But the boys have been really much more reluctant to do it. But when we play really good teams, they do it. They come across the blue line, and if you give them any gap, they turn left or turn right, whichever side it's on, and they're heading to the middle and looking for things to happen. Teammates going to the net. When we were up in northern Minnesota, they did that to us the whole time. And but you got to have the skating skills. You have to be able the ability to carry the puck on your stick. And to Eddie Jeremiah, hockey school, smart, sneaky look, head down, eyes up, that kind of thing. That's what he taught us back in the 50s.
Yeah, there's things that still apply, right?
Yeah. But yeah, Tom, I've got a boy on my team, and you know, he gets the puck and he doesn't look left, he doesn't look right. He's playing 1-on-5 hockey, and the third guy always gets him. The third guy always, he's gotten to the point where he's now got the puck out on one hand on the stick as he's trying to maneuver his way through people, and then he ends up on his back. And you know, they go, Rocco.
Well, I think it's misconstrued, you know, all the moves.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they have, it's like going through turnstiles.
Yeah.
They have to beat this person, then they have to beat that person. And the moves in their mind is they're going to do the toe drags, and they're going to do, and instead of making the defender do something and then keeping the puck out of their reach.
Yeah.
That's all stick handling is you just keep the puck out of the reach of the opponent. But you know, like Mike Rogers played on our old timer team for quite a while, and he didn't hardly try to beat anybody, but he passed to himself.
Yeah.
So we go on a 1-on-2 or something, and he had this little knack. He could just put the puck behind the defenders. Now they have nothing to get except for him, right?
Oh.
And he'd wiggle through and get the puck again, and he was really clever player. But like he probably learning, nobody taught him that. He kind of, because I've never seen anybody else play like that, and he passed to himself all the time. And the idea was, you know, you're not trying to beat everybody. I'll have players that'll have open space, and they'll go and they think they have to beat this D, so they'll go near them.
Yeah.
You know, put a deke on them, and they say, why?
What's the point?
Yeah. So, you know.
So I have a friend that grew up with Gretzky in Brampton or wherever they were from. And he said Wayne developed this move coming out of the corner where he would slide the puck between the defenseman's leg.
Yeah.
Would then look down, and Gretzky would just go right around him and get the puck. And he goes, I played against him in the National Hockey League. I knew the move, and he would do it to me, and he'd get by me every time.
I'm sure he read the angle of the skates and all that. Hey,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a, I know, he's
well,
a,
I've told you a story about him. This one guy plays with us, and he's maybe the fastest guy I've been on the ice with. And he played about 4 or 5 years in the NHL. And he said, yeah, people all say that Gretzky was slow. He says, I never caught him. No?
couldn't
You
catch.
ever seen that
Yep.
60-meter race that Gretzky runs against Pele and all of these guys?
Yeah,
He wins by 10 meters.
yeah.
He was a track athlete too.
This is fun, boys. I gotta go. I gotta do some day work. So it's always great to see you all.
I've got to move on. I really like the last part of the session here. At the 1 minute mark, I've got measuring accountability, but the stuff on one versus one or playing together is huge. And that to me is the biggest thing in elite hockey is those guys use each other. And with the American and Canadian game tonight, there might be some individual players that are going to stand out, but the puck's got to get to them, and they got to let the puck do the work. And I think the team that lets the puck do the work tonight is going to get the best result, and
Yep.
they're going to have to play 200-foot hockey, both teams.
Yep.
All good for the game, guys. So thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
We'll see you.
That's good. See you all.
See you at the rink, Tom. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you, Wally.
Yeah.
I just planning my I planned my practice. I just